Welcome, everybody. I am very happy to introduce Delma Rodriguez and Justin Trieger. I'm going to let them talk about the organizations they're from, but this is a co-creation lab. It's all about performing arts over advanced networking. If you're out in the hall, come in. This is one of the highlight sessions of the week. Delma, Justin.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne. Can you hear me? Yes? Thank you. Good afternoon. We would like to thank Internet 2 for organizing this impressive event and for having selected our proposal that synthesizes a journey of more than 7 years of collaborations and co-creations. For these reasons, the title is Co-Creation Without Borders. Okay, this is Justin Trieger from New York Symphony in Florida State.
And to my right is Delma Rodriguez Morales from Anillo Cultural, which is an organization based out of Uruguay.
Our summary of the content, first framework between Cultural Ring in Uruguay and New York Symphony.
So New World, a little bit more about New World Symphony. It's a postgraduate music academy in South Florida, and we've been affiliate members of Internet 2 since the early 2000s. But as Delma was saying, we're going to start with a framework and then look at exchanges and the collaborations that have happened over the past 7 years. And finally, the co-creation lab.
From 2019 up to now, research and intervention project. Okay, here we go with the presentation, interactive presentation. I don't know if this works. Yes, it's working. It's working. Okay, I would like to share with all of you that Cultural Ring, or in Spanish, Anillo Cultural, was created in the year 2007 in Catalonia through an effort of government of the Catalan Generalitat, aiming to generate content, interinstitutional synergies, providing advanced internet to cultural centers, theaters, research centers, small communities, and cities for their interconnections. That is infrastructure and production content creation. Sorry, but I need to go to the left.
To the right.
To the right, okay. To come here? Okay, yes. This successful experience of Cultural Ring was replicated in the Ibero-American region, founding nodes in 2010. Uruguay node joined 1 year after that. To sum up, Cultural Ring is a co-creation network through advanced internet in art, science, technology, and society, operating in Uruguay and its global network from more than 12 years. We work strongly, sorry, we work strongly, sorry, with the, okay, with different format and telecommunication system on the internet.
So New World and I became involved in Anillo Cultural through a conference that we started in collaboration with Internet 2, again in the early 2000s, which has become known as the Network Performing Arts Production Workshop, and advance notice about the next edition, which is happening in Vilnius, Lithuania in September of this year. We would love to have you, but that is a gathering, an annual gathering of performing arts enthusiasts who are using the network in compelling ways, or otherwise implementing audiovisual and networking technology in performances and performing arts education. And so that's where I met Delma in one of the many editions of that conference, which was hosted at the New World Symphony. And again, New World has made it a habit just of incorporating media technology, communications technology in our educational programs since the early 2000s, and it's kind of become very much what we are known for and part of our brand identity and the organization in a very core way. And so we are unique in that we don't have a faculty, unlike a lot of the other organizations who are here this week. And so it is critical to leverage these types of technologies and the relationships we have with external partners to augment the teachings that we can do with our students locally. So that's a little bit about New World Symphony.
Yeah, thank you. The exchange between New World Symphony and Cultural Ring started in 2017 with an online conference with Trieger as a speaker, showing the development of distance learning and performing arts networks in New World Symphony. It was a live conference with 3 languages channels in Spanish, Portuguese, and English, launched to the Latin American region. Also in 2018, Cultural Ring Uruguay attended to present a conference in New World Symphony in Miami in the context of networking performing art workshop organized by New World Symphony and in partnership with Internet 2. After this bilateral beginning, exchanges and collaboration expanded through the performing art networks known by its acronym NPAPWB, generated synergies between Cultural Ring, Internet 2, New World Symphony, etc. For instance, Ann Doyle from Internet 2, Claudio Allocchio in GAR in Italy, Tom Gorman in Coventry University, among others, participated in activities. And for 2019, these synergies were channeled into an intervention and research project initiated by Cultural Ring, or Anisha Cultural, called Co-Creation Lab under the motto Crossing Continent in Art, Science, and IT Tools. Maybe you are wondering, what is Co-Creation Lab? Okay, it's a research and intervention project with a transdisciplinary approach mediated by IT technology to network collective creation through the advanced internet. The human and technological experimentation have a distributed modality where the participant or potential co-creators are in live connection, synchronous and asynchronous from different countries, regions, and continents. For instance, this graph shows the participation map of the first edition. You can check in color green the potential co-creators spread over 4 continents in the Americas, Europe, Africa, and Oceania. In color light yellow, you can see the speakers and advisors in Europe and the Americas. Then there were external evaluators from Europe and Latin America invited for the closing of the lab when the co-creations were presented. In color yellow, a little bit darker, are the collaborators who participated in supporting the lab at different stages. In color blue, is an external observer who, through Erasmus funds in Europe, visited us at the lab in Montevideo one day for the launch when several online speakers from Europe and the United States participated. In color red are represented the academic research and education networks that supported the lab with different types of collaborations. Of course, from the local node in Uruguay with RAU to other networks in Latin America, such as CUDI in Mexico, CEDIA in Ecuador, Renata in Colombia, RNP in Brazil, with the support of Red Clara in the Latin America region, and together with other networks in Europe, such as CAR in Italy, etc. Okay, this is the visual concept of the project with our organizational graph. If you can check the symbols and the colors related to each one's role in the lab. For instance, you can identify the co-creators in the middle with a red color, of the speakers and advisor with green and hexagons shape, or another one, advisor with yellow hexagons, collaborators, connectors, interpreters, co-creation lab teams, etc. In this slide, you can see the action plan in 2019, the agenda that was managed. For instance, in the global call, we received 87 applications from 4 continents. And finally, for the kickoff, we gathered 40 potential co-creators in art, science, technology, and social fields. We developed this exact plan with 5 sections. For instance, behind the photo of brains on the beach is the first section, Teams Toolkit. Other section was meeting points. Another one was prototypes, rehearsals, and finally to acting and on stage. Also, there were 3 main training encounters from May to September, where the co-creators have the opportunity to make the co-creation experiences and to looking forward the next opportunities in a prospective way. Co-creation journey is a concept coined in the book The Art of Co-Creation by Brian Reel and Matti Amalainen. I would like to recommend particularly Brian Reel because it's an American research located in San Diego area. Maybe it's a useful information for the internet communities. Regarding the co-creation journey, it's a non-linear process in transdisciplinary co-creation. As you can see, the traveling of the co-creators, for instance, you can check the increasing participation. There was a natural selection in the amount of co-creators from 40 to 11 in the final stage. Also, you can see the participation of the speakers, advisors in different moments of the process. In the picture below, in the corner on your left, contains the announcement of Brian Reel and Matti Amalainen, and also in the first week of the lab, we developed their method called Brains on the Beat. This method is mentioned in the book, and you can adapt for your situation if you can apply this method. It's very useful for breaking the ice between the potential co-creators. Maybe you can mention in the other, go ahead.
Yeah, I think an important point to make here is I don't think it's lost on anyone the complexity of the program based on how this slide appears. And I think Delma is very humble in describing this program in a very logical and straightforward way, but it doesn't necessarily communicate the complexity with which she puts these programs together and the thoughtfulness that goes into each of these sessions. And essentially what each of these phases boils down to are a series of online meetings through some kind of video communications, which are mediated by her or other guests, and then supplemented with live translation for every language that is a primary language represented by a participant in the group. And so what I admire about this more than anything is Delma's ability to make everyone feel comfortable in what is usually a very artificial and cold type of situation where you're meeting a bunch of particularly creative people in a space where you don't know each other. And so just the thoughtfulness around how each of these sessions is organized, how everyone's needs are catered to, is very unique and I think essential to the success of the programs and the reason that it has persisted over 7 years and continued to grow. So as far as icebreakers, I don't have a distinct memory. I think from the most recent Super Leagues Lab, my favorite component, which happened on the first session, which I had never seen done before, was as part of the Zoom call, we were invited into breakout rooms, but they were breakout rooms for one. So we were forced to basically have a confessional moment for 15 minutes, talking to ourselves about what we had just experienced in the lab. And that innovation alone, I think, needs to be used a lot more, because there's this tendency in this environment for me, and I would assume for most people, that if you are not actively participating in a Zoom, which is hard to do at all times, or a video call at all times, it forces you to re-engage with what's happening and the people and the subject matter. So one takeaway would definitely be incorporate confessionals into your group meetings. I think it's a good exercise.
It is more easy to work with people like Justin, Claudio, Tom, etc. Thank you. From the first activity, Brains on the Beach, in the first meeting points, we collected 11 ideas. Then, in the process of prototyping them and the possible rehearsals, emerged 5 projects in art and science and technology, and finally 3 projects to present to the jury board in the last online event. The photos that you are watching in this moment in the top shows the collaboration of the interpreters. They were students of interpretation in their professional practices in the translation studies located in University of the República in Uruguay. Also, in the other photos, you can see the collaborators for several events and, for instance, for a specific activities such as Brains on the Beach. You can check the enthusiast attitude with the proposal. In the study or the analysis of the process of the co-creation journey, we can identify 3 clear sections emerged in the process from the potential co-creators. The first one was to analyze what to do, what to think, and what to behave, etc. Then, to concrete that the question was how to make it. And finally, after the presentation and the last meeting with the real co-creators or the potential co-creators that became co-creators, there were the motivation to follow. Okay? What, how, and to follow. In the natural selection of the participant that the potential co-creators attempt possible actions to concrete their ideas, we identified some features. For instance, in the IT mediation, in the beginning, there were the importance to explore and the intertwining of multilingual tools, synchronous and asynchronous. It was correlated with the what moment. Then, in the process of how, the main skills in the IT mediation were the empathic visualization throughout the video conference and how to analyze, compile, and define. In the interviews carried out after the lab with the co-creators, they had the interest to explore and perform the new media for acting their project, etc., and other possibilities. For all of them, the final co-creators, the lab was, and before and after in their lab. It was very rewarded information for us, according their testimonies in the interviews. And from us, we developed several strategies that we can summarize in the co-creation pedagogy in a global and local approach with the participants. These photos are in the final meeting that was carried out in the House of Internet in Montevideo. The House of Internet is a hub of Internet that gathered a lot of institutions, for instance, Red Clara, Internet Society, ICANN, LACNIC, etc. And it was very symbolic moment for the co-creators. Some of them were in face-to-face in the house and then connected from Ecuador, New Zealand, Brazil, etc. This kind of co-creation pedagogy, it was detected in the analysis of the process after the lab. It was a feature emerged or was not a previous category or taxonomy that addressed the project or the intervention. For this reason, in the graph that you can check, right now is a transparent color blue because represent all the layers behind. And in the same correlation in the process, we lead in this kind of pedagogy with the balance between e-cultural education and education e-culture to engage, to foster the potential co-creators in their process. Maybe we can share with all of you a synthesis, a list of characteristics that can be used to build the house of co-creation. As this list has been called in the lab's research, not as a normative instructions to be followed, but as liminal consideration to make authentic co-creation flow. These characteristics found in the analysis are not subordinated to each other or detrimental to some other over others. They are all necessary in the co-creation ecosystem. Maybe you can.
Yeah, one word that's not necessarily represented here that I will add is trust. And I think another interesting observation made in the most recent version of the lab was, again, it was 7 or 8 creative people thrown into a room together, asked to collaborate in some shape or form or to consider what collaboration would look like. And all of us came to that position because of our relationships prior to that with Delma, who we knew privately and personally and had met in person. And I think it was Delma acting as kind of the epicenter of the relationships between everyone in that group that allowed us to feel that level of trust and comfort with each other. If they knew Delma and were comfortable engaging with her and working with her, then I could reasonably trust that I could, allow them the same level of comfort and give them my trust in the same way and be open. And through that, I think conversation flowed much easier.
For instance, it's important to bear in mind that although co-creation is for everyone, this is the scope of the book, the Real and Amalainen. There will be a natural selection in open calls, as described before, so that it can develop properly and not be an inclusion or exclusion. Therefore, it is necessary to consider the free association of participants as a basis and to give them very clear steps to follow in the co-creation process. It makes sense then that closed challenges are set as a way to achieve further result. It is also important that potential co-creators perceive within the lab that there are no external obstacle to them. For all the technological mediation mentioned before, there needs to be an enriched environment of IT tools together with usability design for the specific context of co-creation. In turn, the role of multiple advisors was perceived as a great facilitator and very inspiring for co-creators. In the lab's co-creation process, direct and indirect strategies need to be implemented with potential co-creators, which they can learn and implement themselves in order to create bottom-up synergies rather than receiving top-down instruction. In the process, it is necessary to establish a permanent feedback between all parties involved, even as a part of the process to include new support if it is necessary. In this sense, to foster with the participant an expanded environment to express the self. Integrating all their profiles and variables such as time differences, the place where they live, their personalities, and their own bodies as expressions and interactions. Specifically for the co-creators, two aspects are relevant: the togetherness and the otherness to converge in a common purpose. According to the co-creators, the lab's work on this aspect will enable the findings together with the co-creators. In relation to this, it was relevant that the pieces of advice for the groups, for instance, given for Justin, Brian, Tom, etc., such as another one, the importance of the bond, the common conversions, the solidarity, among others, can be crucial in the moment of co-creation. This advice should not be perceived by the co-creators in a top-down sense, but as a part of co-creative experience of the laboratory environment. Last but not least, in this set of characteristics is that the lab can generate a series of strategies with the co-creators to balance the frustrations they may experience in the process. It's very important to balance the frustration with the potential co-creators. The main features of co-creation in this area have been described, and the following slide develops the journey of the lab through the pandemic period and beyond, and it is redesigned to incorporate the lessons learned and to anticipate other challenges. Okay, between 2020 and 2023, we continued experimenting with other online encounters with pioneers and experienced co-creators, exploring their behaviors, their needs, and interests. And particularly in this year, we launched the edition Co-Creation Lab Super Leagues for experienced co-creators. The following slide explains the context. And also, I would like to share that in 2023, we made arrangement to develop a specific lab for pioneers and experienced co-creators. And in the end of it was all together. In the end of this year, I got a scholarship to PhD in PhD program at UNIR. UNIR is the acronym of International University in La Rioja in Spain. And everything of the lab had been doing and channeled it through their formalizing a research project for the PhD thesis in this context. Particularly, the research of the lab is located in this PhD program in the UNIR University in Spain, and the field is in the digital humanities. The thesis is in the field, particularly in the field of e-culture, studying the co-creative skill that pioneers need and experienced co-creator have, and what could be those co-creative skills that future teachers will need to transmit to the new generations as digital humanists of the future within a transdisciplinary approach in arts, science, technology, and society. This is the core of the thesis that I am developing. We are sharing two thoughts. I would like to introduce Dr. Raquel Gil Fernandez, is my thesis director in UNIR. You can read her thoughts that what kind of contribution it's expected from the thesis for the field in e-culture, and also what kind of contribution in the near future for education and for the context that Anisha Cultural or Cultural Ring is developing. The next one thought is from Carmen Escribano Muñoz, is the academic coordinator of my thesis, and she shared the scope of the thesis in terms of collective knowledge that is constructed in the process of the research project. You can read the quote. Okay, back into the experiment in the lab this year. We are in the middle of an ongoing research. For this reason, it's just only sharing our current experience because it's unfinished investigation. I don't know if you want to say something.
So I can just maybe recap a little bit about the most recent Super Leagues gathering. It amounted to a week of intensive conversations via network, amounting to 3 separate 2.5-hour video conversations among the creator group, There were moments instigated by Delma and the coordinators that were helpful in terms of spurring conversation and getting us to think about the necessary environment and factors for effective collaboration and artistic co-creation. And as she mentioned before, what was nice is when we, as a group, came in opposition with the directives we were being given by the program executors, that was well received. I think there was this direction towards the end of the process that they had equipped us with the tools, we had met each other and gotten comfortable understanding each other as humans, and now it was time to co-create. So the question was, what are we going to make? And the initial reaction from the group was, well, we're not ready to make anything yet. We've just started talking. And so it was nice that as part of the co-creation pedagogy, it incorporates participants' lack of willingness to go along with the program as prescribed. It's much more reactive to how people are feeling and how things naturally developed. And so while no direct artistic creations came out of the project as of yet, it did a good job in terms of cementing our relationships with one another and our desire to continue the process. And so I'm looking forward to seeing, after all the data is analyzed, what the next form that group will take and what the types of activities we're going to undertake.
Yes, taking the lesson learned in the previous lab, we focus with the empathic visualization throughout Zoom tools, and focusing particularly with the concept of daydreaming to start the co-creation, and it is a key in the creative process, daydreamings. In this sense, we're working with some tools, as I mentioned. We exploited to the maximum the different tools with attractive visual experiences. And I think that we can synthesize the main challenges that we found at the moment within the three main stages mentioned for sure in the book, the real and Amalainen, that is the problem of what to resolve, what to do, then the unknown, and then conversion in a co-creation. But the challenges can be synthesized in this list that let's get to know each other. What are we going to co-create? What is possible? The common ground in terms of the core of the internet, the interest of the co-creators and their values. And it's everything to co-create in terms of innovative and novel production. For sure, it was also challenging to work with the modalities of individuals, peers, small groups, and groups synchronous and asynchronous. In an accumulated method, we will be interrelating labs. We are developing in this moment three labs into the co-creation lab: Super Leagues, co-creation lab that I mentioned, which was mentioned before between us, and we have already started the co-creation lab for teachers, and we are about to start soon, next week's co-creation lab for museums. The photos that you are watching in this slide are from the last workshop into the teachers co-creation lab in Montevideo in the end of last February. It was only face-to-face activity where the future and current teachers development and experiment about how to co-create. For instance, we needed to reshape the space more affordable for an activity that stimulates the daydreamings, and also in neuroscience, the TMN, that is a default mode network that our brain works better for daydreamings. And also, it was very interesting to detect in the process and the final results and the findings that the participant found as a meta-reflections in the end of the activity. So far, these are our advances at the moment, and of course, we are open to potential interested parties from all of you, whether for partners, support, participants, etc. I don't know if you want to mention something of that.
Only that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe many of the early co-creation lab videos and sessions are recorded and available on YouTube.
Yes, in our YouTube channel in Spanish, Anilla Cultural Uruguay, or in English, you can write the same, Cultural Ring Uruguay. In the playlist, Co-Creation Lab is open for all, and even the conferences. Maybe it's useful if you want to develop your experiences or your co-creative experiences as well.
So I would just encourage people to go watch some of those because it does a great job, probably a better job of illustrating the impact of the co-creation lab and the pedagogy itself than it is possible to achieve in a slide presentation. So.
Thank you so much. We are open for the Q&A and exchanges, etc. And thank you, Justin, because he's a key person, and Doyle in United States, and I am watching other colleagues from other parts.
So, hello, my name is Jeffrey Weekly. I'm currently with the University of California in Santa Cruz. But before I was with the UC, I spent about 20 years at the Modeling and Simulations Institute at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California. And there, I was invited into this organization called Synagrid. Have you ever heard of it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Synagrid, very similar approach, co-creation, multinational, institutional, Japan, Brazil, the Netherlands, Spain, the United States, Canada. Just it was a big group of us. And we did, over about almost a 15-year history, we did cultural and scientific and medical co-created events. And they were usually live streaming. Sometimes they were music. Sometimes they were, surgery. It was really, really kind of insane what we were doing.
It sounds very nice, very great.
And we always had sound and picture, and our goal was cinematic quality. So I don't necessarily have a question. What I would encourage you to do is to go and look at the Synagrid archives on YouTube to get a flavor of what it is that we were doing. And it might be possible to inspire your co-creation groups in ways that you're not thinking of by looking back at what we did in 2005, 2010, 2015. And it really, so we all have this thing on our wall now, a 4K television, right? That's because of Synagrid. And so they were a really amazing, inspired group of people that I was really happy and proud to be part of.
Thank you for sharing, and also maybe we can generate some synergy with an international program, New Media for Teachers. We are launching the second edition next year, and we need to talk more. Thank you so much. The intention to present this participate this content and participating in this kind of event is not to invent the wheel, is to generate more synergies and sharing experiences. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if someone else want to share.
I think that might be it.
Question or critic point?
Hi, my name's Stephanie Stenberg, and I'm the director of the Community Anchor Program at Internet2. So thank you so much for this great presentation. And I just wanted to say that since the pandemic, what we've noticed this year, at least amongst the state research and education networks that connect to the Internet2 network, is that we're talking about how we can finally start being a little more proactive again in our projects to demonstrate the power of the network as opposed to being reactive because of COVID. And there's a lot of interest surrounding cultural exchange and music projects especially. And would you have any advice for networks who may be new to taking some of these approaches? Any tips for them as they kind of venture into this, maybe for the first time, or the first time at least since the pandemic, into these creative projects?
So I would definitely be remiss if I did not mention, once again, Network Performing Arts Production Workshop. That's a really good resource. And the conference website, npapws.org, hosts a lot of video content from past workshops. So there's a wealth of information there that people can review. Beyond that, it's just that community of people, which you'll become intimately familiar with the more you are aware of what happens at that workshop, are very generous with their time and expertise, and there are email listservs and focus groups that pertain to different tools that we all have been using for many years that are great resources for everyone from experienced users to beginners of the technology. So I think that's a huge resource. Thinking specifically of Lola and what the GART folks have developed, there's a big user community around that tool in particular. UltraGrid is another tool that has a big user group, and then Jack Trip as well, which is one of the old fogies in terms of audio streaming and transmission. So I guess beyond that, my recommendation is always let the program drive the tool choice, and I think that stands true to this day. It's more about evaluating what outcomes you want out of what you're trying to accomplish than trying to find a tool to use. So, and like I'll go back to the user groups and the listservs. They will be helpful for you in determining your skill set and the tool to match to that skill set, and then what will get you closest to your desired outcomes. So there is a big community. You just need to reach out, and we'll be more than happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you so much.